We are kicking off with WWE, and in the men's Elimination Chamber match, John Cena declared his entry, and CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, Logan Paul, and Damian Priest would win qualifying matches to advance. Going into Raw, there was one spot left, and a qualifying match between Finn Balor and Seth Rollins would determine the last entrant in the all-important match. After all, the winner of this Elimination Chamber match will earn a title shot against WWE Champion Cody Rhodes after Jey Uso chose to use his Royal Rumble win to face Gunther. Balor started off strong in this qualifier, with the commentary playing up the pair's history stemming back to Balor's ill-fated Universal title win against Rollins at SummerSlam 2016. Ultimately, though, Rollins escaped Balor's crossface and delivered a stomp to earn the pinfall win and the final spot in the men's Elimination Chamber match. This was a certified banger of a main event between two men who know each other well and have excellent in-ring chemistry, which led to them treating this like a PLE-worthy contest. The only hiccup was a near fall during the match when Seth attempted to pin Finn that certainly looked like a 3 count, but the match ultimately continued to the delight of the fans. The pair built on previous spots from previous matches, and having a counter-heavy closing sequence helped make this match the match of the night for the festivities in Charlotte. Rollins now has one last shot to cash his ticket to a title match at WrestleMania, while Balor will have to deal with this setback in an already failing Judgment Day that is at odds with itself. After losing to Rollins, the former WWE Universal Champion is now 1-7 in his last 8 televised matches. He last won a match in November last year when he and JD McDonough defeated the War Raiders on Raw. Balor's booking has been a topic of concern among fans, especially after rumors suggested that he was in line for a major singles push this year. Tensions within the Judgment Day continued on Raw as Finn Balor once again told Dominic Mysterio that there should be no new members to the group. Fans have seen members of the faction be unceremoniously kicked out before, and on Raw, Tom and Carlito were seen in the background of a Pete Dunne segment, seemingly scheming. It's possible that the pair are planning to do the same to Balor, and if so, then the question is who would be the faction's new member? The only potential clue is that Dominic handed a note to Chad Gable to help Gable in his war with luchadors, meaning there's someone who's an ally of the Judgment Day member. Could this person join the faction? It's certainly an interesting idea, especially with Malachi Black being one of the names fans have been speculating was the one on Dirty Dom's note. With that said, Zelina Vega has been moved to SmackDown, and WWE typically keeps real-life couples together, meaning Black may return to WWE on the Blue brand, not Raw. If not Black, then this mystery addition could be anybody on the roster, and we'll have to see what's to come for the faction and Finn Balor's membership. Kevin Owens vs. Sami Zayn was confirmed during Raw, and this isn't just happening at the Elimination Chamber event in Toronto, Canada, but it'll be an unsanctioned match. This rare stipulation was made official during the opening segment of this week's Raw, during which Zayn made his return to TV to update fans on his neck injury. That injury was caused by the package piledriver Owens delivered a few weeks ago, but despite the damage, Zayn made clear he's ready to fight his friend and enemy. After Owens challenged him via a fiery social media promo last week, Zayn warned KO that there'd be no forgiveness this time and vowed to destroy Owens at the March 1st PLE. The only issue was Raw GM Adam Pearce, who wasn't on board with the idea, and he stepped in and refused to make the match official due to Zayn's injury. Tensions escalated, and Pearce ultimately hinted that the only way this match could happen is under unsanctioned rules, and Zayn quickly accepted, saying no one could stop him. But what is an unsanctioned match? Well, basically it means that WWE does not take any obligation or liability for the match despite it happening in one of their rings. These matches are typically made when stars want to destroy one another, and WWE is cautious about how things could unfold and whether they could be legally liable for injuries. Whatever happens in Zayn vs. Owens, Triple H and his team won't be held accountable, and the liability of a potential career-threatening or ending injury rests on the two men in the contest. The segment delivered with Zayn cutting a passionate promo that hooked the crowd in Charlotte, though there is an argument to be made that this match should be at WrestleMania. Given the intense history between the two and the fact that they beat the Usos for the tag titles just 2 years ago, there's an argument that WrestleMania would be the right choice for this war. But what do you think? Should Owens vs. Zayn happen at WrestleMania, or should it take place at Elimination Chamber in the pair's native Canada? Let us know in the comments. In a backstage segment, Karrion Kross questioned Zayn as to whether he believes he is capable of beating Owens at Elimination Chamber given the state he's in. Kross added that Zayn knows deep down that there's always more time to turn things around, and a twisting motion from Kross's hand indicated that Sami should do something different. Kross wants Zayn to do something out of his comfort zone, and the idea that he could turn things around seems to be Kross trying to coax Sami into turning heel and reuniting with KO. Do you think Karrion Kross will play a role in Owens vs. Zayn, and if so, will he help Sami out or attack the former Intercontinental Champion? Share your thoughts down in the comments. Now, AJ Styles didn't just show up on Raw, but he arrived in style as Daytona 500 winner William Byron dropped him off in his number 24 Chevrolet for Styles' match with Dominic Mysterio. The match came about after an in-ring confrontation between the two on last week's Raw, and for this week's match, Mysterio was accompanied by Carlito. This was a fast-paced, hard-hitting match with Styles hitting what Pat McAfee called a total non-stop action dropkick, a nod to AJ's time as a foundational piece of TNA and its X division. Styles struggled in the ring against Dirty Dom due to Carlito interfering, but ultimately the Phenomenal One scored the win, but his night wasn't over yet. After the match, Braun Breaker emerged from the crowd to try and hit a spear on Styles, but the veteran moved out of the way, and the Intercontinental Champion hit Dirty Dom instead. Styles then blindsided Breaker with an enziguri and threw him out of the ring into the announce table, leaving Braun embarrassed and humiliated, according to Michael Cole. Braun threw his shirt at Styles in anger, but the slick AJ snatched it out of the air while staring Breaker down before both men realized that the Intercontinental title was in the corner. Both men went to grab it, with Breaker just getting to it first, once again teasing a title showdown between the two, possibly at Elimination Chamber or even WrestleMania 41. As for Mysterio, he's grown by leaps and bounds as an in-ring performer, which can be attributed to his being allowed to work with and alongside some of the best and brightest. With that said, this match and segment was about re-establishing Styles as a title contender, and in that regard it worked, as he appears to be on a course for a showdown with Braun. Whether he can add another title reign to his sparkling resume, that remains to be seen. Rhea Ripley was conspicuous by her absence this week, but the reason for her being missing was solid. She's officially on her honeymoon with Buddy Matthews. Ripley confirmed the news on Instagram by sharing an update after being spotted at AEW Grand Slam Australia, where Matthews competed against Kazuchika Okada. In an impressive, watery video segment, Io Sky remembered who she is, including her past feuds with Rhea Ripley, and showed a focus on beating the reigning Women's World Champion. The pair will face off for the gold on the Raw after Elimination Chamber, and we can't count out a huge swerve in Io winning the gold and walking into WrestleMania 41 as champion. Now, Roxanne Perez has experienced a meteoric rise in NXT since joining a few years ago, and that continued on this week's Raw when she defeated the bigger, stronger Raquel Rodriguez. Perez's victory did admittedly come thanks in part to well-timed appearances from Bianca Belair and Naomi, who distracted Raquel, as well as Liv Morgan. On the plus side, Roxanne Perez winning was the right move. Bianca Belair and Naomi getting involved was also good. Still, fans didn't know how to react to the two heels working against each other, and Roxanne being presented as somewhat of a babyface when she has a feud with Bayley makes no sense. Bianca Belair and Naomi came out dressed as cheerleaders, which may have been confusing to fans, but these outfits were inspired by the Clovers cheerleading team from the movie Bring It On. With the women's tag champs providing the distraction, Perez recovered and scored a pinfall on Rodriguez, earning the final spot in this year's Women's Elimination Chamber match. Perez will join an elite cast of main roster talents, including her former mentor Bayley, and her match with Rodriguez was fine, if not curiously booked, with Perez as the babyface. The real meat of the matter, though, was the arrival of Belair and Naomi and the escalation of their rivalry with Morgan and Rodriguez. Now Morgan will find herself in the unfortunate role of sharing the chamber with the vengeance-hungry Belair and Naomi, and without Raquel with her. The match will include Naomi, Belair, Bayley, Perez, Morgan, and Alexa Bliss, with the winner earning a Women's World Championship opportunity at WrestleMania 41. Perez will need to defy the odds once again if she hopes to challenge for the gold this April, while Morgan may just be lucky to survive being locked inside with the EST and the Glow. But who do you think will win the Elimination Chamber match and earn a Women's World title shot? Let us know below. Given what happened on Raw, all signs are pointing to Belair and Naomi facing Liv and Raquel, possibly at WrestleMania, but the heels had quite the accusation to make on Raw. Recently, Nick Aldis shared new footage from the night Jade Cargill was attacked, which showed Liv and Raquel walking away from the scene, but not from Jade herself. This left room for speculation that they weren't behind the attack on the Storm after all, and on Raw, Liv explained why she and Rodriguez weren't the attackers. Morgan explained that even if they did attack Cargill, they wouldn't feel bad about it, adding that it could happen to anyone in their way. Liv's argument was that if they were the attackers, they wouldn't be hiding that they did it, suggesting that since we don't know who the attacker is, they want to keep their identity secret. Instead, it's believed by many that the attacker will be revealed as Naomi, who has certainly benefited in Jade's absence, or perhaps Belair herself. The question, though, is how the attacker being revealed will fit into this program with Liv and Rodriguez, as a title match has been confirmed for next week's Raw in Cincinnati, Ohio. This match could be what brings Cargill back to TV, especially as she's once again been spotted at the WWE Performance Center. Jade was seen in the PC yesterday, where she's been working for the past month, and while creative plans for her aren't 100% set in stone, the expectation is that they will be very soon. If so, Jade could return and get involved in the feud over the women's tag titles, even if Morgan and Rodriguez are as innocent as they claim to be. In addition to the attacker, it remains to be seen how Jade will react to Naomi replacing her as champion and if she'll want her half of the tag team titles back when she's back on our screens. But what do you expect to come from this storyline as we continue to get closer to WrestleMania 41? Share your thoughts and predictions in our comments section. World Heavyweight Champion Gunther entered Raw through the crowd looking to see what the Heat energy was all about, and the Ring General wasn't impressed. Inside the ring, Gunther verbally berated his WrestleMania 41 opponent Jey Uso, even giving him the opportunity to rescind his challenge for the biggest show of the year. On the arena floor, Gunther interrogated Michael Cole and Pat McAfee, asking if they believed Jey could beat him, and Pat was poised to say he believed so. Before that, Uso entered to a big pop and a brawl ensued, which was eventually broken up by security, but not before the 2025 Men's Royal Rumble winner was standing tall. Jey's triumph closed out the segment, and this was an impressive follow-up from last week's segment between the two talented Raw superstars. Having Gunther taunt Jey and give him an out, only for Uso's fire and drive to prove more dangerous to the Ring General in his title reign than he thought, was a great development. The key now, though, will be for WWE to continue finding ways to highlight this feud without it becoming stale, and with over 2 months to go, that'll be no easy feat for the writing team. Raw in Charlotte was the stacked show, and fans got the chance to see undisputed WWE Champion Cody Rhodes in action after the broadcast went off the air. In a dark match, Cody put the title on the line against Carmelo Hayes, who fans may recall ambushed Rhodes after an episode of Raw last month. Given that this was a dark match, a title change was always highly unlikely, and sure enough, Rhodes was able to retain his gold against Hayes to send the crowd home happy. The rivalry between Penta and Pete Dunne continued on Raw as the pair faced off in a rematch from a few weeks ago, with Dunne controlling early on with his joint manipulation. The Bruiserweight targeted the hands of Penta as Ludwig Kaiser, who has recruited Dunne for an alliance, watched on from ringside, but the masked star wasn't going to be beat so easily. Penta recovered and was rolling later in the match, which prompted Kaiser to provide a distraction, but instead of benefiting from it, Dunne voiced his frustrations at the German. This allowed Penta to drop him and pick up the pin, and the Luchador wiped out both Kaiser and Dunne as they brawled at ringside to assert his dominance. This was yet another strong in-ring outing for Penta, who continues to show his value as a relative newcomer in WWE who is already immensely over with the fans. There will be plenty of questions about his plans for WrestleMania, but the fact that Penta has already commanded a spot on the card is a testament to the performer and the creative team. After brutalizing Rey Mysterio to close out last week's show, the New Day were on Raw and hit the ring to address the WWE Universe. The pair blamed Mysterio for what happened in typical heel fashion and accused Rey of sucking the life out of every young luchador to come through WWE's doors. The LWO's Dragon Lee, Cruz del Toro, and Joaquin Wilde interrupted the proceedings, resulting in a brawl between the two sides that left the heels scurrying to the floor and backstage. This was a logical development that sets up a future tag team match, giving the LWO a chance to protect Mysterio's legacy and honor against Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston. It also gives the New Day a shot to a momentum-building win before the Ultimate Showdown with the Hall of Famer and a partner that'll likely be Dragon Lee. John Cena wasn't a part of this week's Raw, but fans in Europe will have the chance to see the WWE icon on the red brand next month. Cena will be at the Raw in Brussels, Belgium on March 17th, Glasgow, Scotland the following week, and London, England on the March 31st episode. While Cena appearing on Raw is exciting, it does raise a question about Cena not winning the Elimination Chamber match, as if he does, it's presumed he'll be appearing on SmackDown. Interestingly, CM Punk is also being advertised for Raw, raising questions about him winning in the Chamber and a potential program with SmackDown's top star in Cody Rhodes. Now, CM Punk will be in action at the Elimination Chamber in the hopes of earning a world title match at WrestleMania 41. Given his role on the upcoming show and his value to the product as a star, it seems like a mistake that he wasn't used on Raw. Even if Punk just cut another promo about his opponents at the big show, it would have served the program well. It's fair to say that the fans were disappointed by the absence of the best in the world. On Raw, Dakota Kai earned a rematch for the Women's Intercontinental Championship held by Lyra Valkyria by defeating Ivy Nile in a #1 Contenders match. Fans will remember that Valkyria defeated Kai in January in the finals of a tournament to become the inaugural champion in a major setback for the Damage Control member. After coming so close to winning her first singles title in WWE, Kai squared off with Nile to determine Lyra's first challenger, and both women delivered a competitive match. Nile targeted the base of Kai with a Kurt Angle-inspired ankle lock, only for Kai to prove her toughness by fighting through the pain. A GTK from Kai finished off Nile and cashed Dakota's ticket to a rematch with Valkyria, and another shot at her winning her first singles gold in WWE. Valkyria, who'd been watching from ringside, stood up and held the Intercontinental title in the air, staring down her next challenger, and Kai is hoping that the third time is the charm. The New Zealander has lost to Lyra in their previous 2 matches, but this match also highlighted some key issues with the Raw Women's division. WWE's creative team needs to find a way for Nile to connect with fans outside of her being an uber athlete and American-made, and so far, that hasn't been working. Though the action here was acceptable, it's clear that fans are not interested in Nile, and Kai is still finding her footing as an inspirational babyface to rally behind. Kai won't have to wait long to get her title opportunity, as she'll face Valkyria on next week's episode of Monday Night Raw. Whether WWE finally pulls the trigger on a singles reign for Kai remains to be seen, but hopefully their title match will be a step in the right direction for the division. A-Town Down Under were in the crowd on Raw and showed that they were still friends after NXT Vengeance Day, where both challenged Shota Femi for the NXT title. In an interview with Pat McAfee, the pair made clear their intentions to go after Sheamus in what could be the start of a return for Miro. Sheamus hasn't gotten an ally to equal the numbers against A-Town Down Under, but recently shared a photo with Miro, leaving fans speculating on the Bulgarian backing up the Irish star. In the recent wave of cuts, Isla Dawn was let go from WWE, and her exit left fans concerned about Alba Fyre possibly also being cut from the company. In an update though, Fightful confirmed that Fyre is still with WWE and was part of this week's main event taping, where she faced Lyra Valkyria. For the time being, WWE is invested in having Fyre as a solo star, and a match with the Women's Intercontinental Champion, even on main event, is hardly a bad thing for the Scot. The War Raiders had a segment on Raw and made clear they're not finished with the Creed brothers, promising that their next match will indeed be a war. After the Creeds got themselves DQ'd last week, it's possible that a rematch will see the World Tag Team titles change hands in what will no doubt be an explosive showdown between teams. It's hardly a secret that CM Punk has a history of rubbing people the wrong way, but since his return to WWE in 2023, reports of his conduct backstage have been glowing. On Busted Open Radio, The Undertaker talked about how CM Punk has changed since returning to WWE. He said, "He's mature now, he's actually very pleasant to be around, and that's a word we don't often hear thrown around when it comes to Punk. Before he left the first time, he was very aloof, a lot of times aloof. He could be somewhat combative, and he was one of those guys who wanted to fight for every hill, but not always in a good way." The Phenom added that Punk seems more friendly and open now that he's back, and discussed how genuinely happy Punk appears to be whenever the Dead Man sees him backstage. He said, "But my experiences with him since he came back have been completely different. He's so personable and engaging. It's like a different guy. It's like a weight's been lifted off him. I don't know his personal struggles or any of that, that's not my business, but I do know how people act and react, and I see him cutting up all the time with people and engaging in conversations. I'm not around a lot, but every time I'm there, he's the same, so that tells me it's probably a consistent thing for him now." With Punk turning a corner, The Undertaker believes that these changes and the experiences Punk has had could help him become a great mentor to the younger names on the roster. Punk has already been helping out in WWE NXT, and should he decide to take on an official role, he would have a chance to share his knowledge and help the young stars grow immensely. Sean Ross Sapp previously reported that WWE has been very happy with Punk's conduct since returning, a return that has been a huge thing for fans and Punk alike. After his exit from AEW, Punk has been given a chance to improve his legacy with WWE, and with his new attitude, Punk appears poised to become an important mentor to the stars of tomorrow. And we're ending with Monday Night Raw, as Laura and Brittany from Season 6 of Love is Blind were at the show in Charlotte and were spotlighted in the crowd. Though neither ended up walking down the aisle of the hit Netflix series, they clearly had fun at Raw, adding some extra star power and demonstrating WWE's strong partnership with Netflix.